At 23, my family turned their backs on me. A decade later, my grandfather's will named me the sole heir. Now the same people who cast me out are pleading for a way back into my life. I was barely a man, 23 and brimming with naive ambition, when my family carved me out of their lives like a cancerous growth. A single misstep, a fledgling business venture gone awry, and suddenly I was nothing. My name is Riley, and my family, a viper's nest of expectations and judgment, had always deemed me the black sheep. Every attempt to earn their elusive approval crumbled under their scornful gaze. But the true shattering came when my father and his kin, the supposed pillars of our lineage, cast me aside for a mistake they barely deemed worthy of a whisper. I had dared to dream, to build my own small empire, desperate to prove my worth to parents who saw only a fool chasing unrealistic visions. The deal wasn't monumental, but it was mine. I poured every ounce of my being into it, working until dawn, fueled by a burning desire for success. Yet I was too trusting, too quick to believe, and the deal imploded, leaving a sting of financial loss that, while not catastrophic, echoed the deeper wound of their inevitable disdain. When I called, expecting solace, perhaps even guidance, my father's voice was a blade of ice. No comfort, no empathy, just a frigid pronouncement of failure. "This is why we told you not to get involved with those people," he sneered. "You're making a fool of yourself." Before I could even beg for understanding, his decree fell like a death sentence. "You've done enough damage. We don't need you causing any more embarrassment. Maybe it's time to step back and focus on something smaller. You're nothing to us now." The line went dead. My mother's silence had been a resounding affirmation of his cruelty. The rest of the family, a chorus of compliance, swiftly followed suit, erasing me from their picture-perfect lives. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all quick to disown, to condemn. I was crushed. A raw, bleeding wound of a human being. A decade of desperate striving, shattered by a single, unforgiving blow. In their world, second chances were a myth. For years, I nursed my wounds in solitude, my business becoming my defiant act of survival. I built something new, something real, something mine. The outreach stopped. The desperate need for their validation withered and died. The pain was a constant companion at first. Birthdays, holidays, a phantom limb aching for a family that no longer existed. I watched their curated happiness from afar, a ghost in their joyful photographs. Only my grandmother, a lone beacon in the encroaching darkness, offered fleeting glimpses of hope. Her quiet messages, whispers of potential, of belief, were my lifeline, until even those faded into silence, presumably choked by my father's iron grip. A decade, 10 years of silence. I had moved on, hardened by the crucible of their abandonment. The naive boy was gone, replaced by a successful man, my business a testament to my resilience. I didn't need them, not anymore. Then, the call, my lawyer's voice, a tremor of disbelief in his usually steady tone, shattered the fragile peace. "Riley, I have some news for you. I've just received your grandfather's will." My grandfather, the only one who had ever truly seen me, past the perceived flaws, to the potential within. He was a silent force, a man of quiet wisdom, and I had never expected a single penny from his vast, secretive fortune. "The will. It's complicated," my lawyer continued, "but there's something you need to know. Your grandfather left everything to you." I sat in stunned silence. Everything? The sprawling estate, the intricate investments, the very business that had been the envy of my father, the golden child. It defied logic. "Are you sure?" My voice was a fragile whisper. "Everything," he confirmed. "It's all yours, but there's more. The rest of your family, they were cut out. They don't inherit anything." The phone clattered from my numb fingers. A tempest raged within me, a triumphant roar of vindication warring with a furious, bitter ache. The abandoned boy wanted to burn their world down. And then, the second call, my father. His voice, usually a fortress of arrogance, was laced with an unfamiliar desperation. "Riley," he pleaded, "we need to talk." A bitter laugh escaped me. After all these years of being nothing, now they crawled back. Now, with my grandfather's fortune hanging in the balance, they suddenly remembered my existence. "About what?" I managed, my voice a precarious tightrope, walk over a chasm of rage. "What exactly do you need to talk about?" "We made a mistake, Riley," he stammered. "We were wrong to cut you off. We want to fix things. Please, come back. We're family." "Family?" I echoed, the word a poisoned dart. "Funny how you only remember that word now, after Grandpa's will was read." The silence that followed was thick with his discomfort. Riley, you don't understand, he pressed. We need you. You're the only one who can help us now. My eyebrow arched in cold amusement. Help you? After everything you did? After you kicked me out of the family for a small mistake, now you want my help? You want me to come back? He floundered, a fish out of water. It's not like that. We're struggling. We need you to make it right. You know how things were with Grandpa's will. We didn't get anything, and we need your support. A surge of incandescent fury washed over me. They were begging. For money? For forgiveness? Both, undoubtedly. I think it's time for you to realize something, I said, my voice a glacier. You don't get to waltz back into my life just because you need something from me. You abandoned me when I needed you the most. Now that the tables have turned, you think you can just ask for my help? His desperate sigh hung in the air. Riley, please. We're family. I hung up, the satisfying click echoing in the sudden silence. Anger, hurt, and a delicious, intoxicating sense of power intertwined within me. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I held their fate in my hands, just as they had once held mine. How far was I willing to go? Another call. This one, my cousin, her voice frayed with an uncharacteristic urgency. Riley, you've got to help us. They're begging, but we don't know what to do. You're the only one who can fix this. The phone felt like a block of ice in my hand. For so long, I had been the discarded, the forgotten. Now, they needed me to save them. The irony was maddening, exhilarating. This was my moment, my chance to make them understand, truly understand, the magnitude of their betrayal. I ended the call without a word, my mind a tempest of fury and vengeful satisfaction. They thought they could discard me and then crawl back. They had no idea what was coming. The next few days were a relentless barrage of calls, voicemails, and desperate texts. My father, my aunt, even my uncle, a chorus of pleas, thinly veiled by feigned concern, all aimed at the inheritance. My grandfather's estate, the property, the business. It was all about the money now. They wanted a piece. And they desperately hoped I would be their savior. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I let them sweat, let them stew in the same anxiety and fear they had inflicted upon me for years. They needed to feel the sting of rejection, the agonizing emptiness of being cast aside. More than that, they needed to understand that I was in control now. Finally, the day arrived. My lawyer, a silent sentinel, stood beside me as I entered the meeting room. My family was already there, a cluster of apprehension around the large table, their eyes darting to me with a mixture of relief and raw guilt. My father, ever the spokesman, his voice a strained whisper of hope, spoke first. Riley, I'm glad you're here. We've made some mistakes. We know we hurt you, and we're sorry for that, but we're a family, and we need each other. Please, let's move past this. His hands trembled, his desperation palpable. You want to move past it? My voice was calm, but the bitterness was a razor's edge. Funny, I don't remember you ever wanting to move past it when you threw me away 10 years ago, when you decided that a small mistake was enough to make me nothing. The silence in the room was suffocating. My father's face flushed, his gaze falling to the table. He had no reply. I'm not here because I'm feeling generous, I continued, my gaze sweeping across their anxious faces. I'm here because you all have something I want, and you're going to pay for it. The air crackled with tension. My cousin, the one who had called, looked at me, a silent plea in her wide eyes. But I wouldn't back down. This was my moment. We're not asking for much, my aunt interjected, her voice strained. Just a fair share, Riley. Grandpa would have wanted us to have something. Grandpa? I scoffed, a dry, humorless sound. The same grandpa who made it crystal clear he trusted me, and not any of you? The same grandpa who left everything to me, not you? My father's face darkened, a flicker of his old anger igniting in his eyes. This is ridiculous, Riley. You're being unreasonable. We're your family. You can't just cut us out like this. Cut you out? My bitter laugh filled the room. You did that to me 10 years ago. You had no problem cutting me out of your lives when I made a mistake. Well, guess what? I'm not making the same mistake. This time, I'm in control, and you're going to learn what it means to treat someone as if they don't matter. Silence reigned again, heavy and uncomfortable. They shifted in their seats, their faces a tableau of discomfort and dawning realization. They had pushed me too far. They knew I was right. I'll tell you what, I said, leaning forward, meeting each of their gazes. I'll help you, but it's going to cost you. You want a piece of this inheritance. You'll pay for it, and you'll do exactly what I say. No more pretending like everything's fine. No more acting like you can walk all over me. If you want me back in your lives, you better prove that you deserve it. A long, agonizing pause. Then my father, defeated, let out a deep sigh. What do you want from us, Riley? I want your respect, I said, my voice steady and cold. I want you to acknowledge how wrong you were. I want you to admit that you hurt me. And if you can't do that, then you can walk away and never see me again. The silence stretched, their minds visibly churning. They were desperate, and I held all the cards. Finally, my father, his voice raw with resignation, spoke again. Okay, we'll do what you want. Just please, don't cut us out forever. I stood, a chilling wave of satisfaction washing over me. Good. This is just the beginning. Don't think for a second that you've earned my forgiveness, but you've bought yourself a chance. As I turned to leave, their hushed murmurs followed me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I had won, and I would make sure they remembered that. But one lingering question remained. What would I do with the immense power now resting in my hands? The weeks that followed blurred into a relentless dance of negotiation and subtle manipulation. My family, desperate and humbled, performed for me. Apologies, contrite promises, desperate attempts to atone, all performed with the fervent belief that their very survival hinged on my approval. I observed their groveling with a detached amusement, a grim satisfaction. I knew, intimately, that true change rarely came without a healthy dose of discomfort. They had grown too accustomed to their elevated status, to my insignificance, to ever truly consider the consequences of their callous disregard. I wouldn't let them off easily. It became a carefully orchestrated game of power. Every request, every hesitant plea, was met with a new hurdle, a fresh reminder of their past cruelty. Their attempts at family dinners and heartfelt conversations felt like hollow charades. Every time I saw my father or aunt, the raw memory of their abandonment flared, a searing brand. I kept them at arm's length, relishing their discomfort, their frantic scramble for my elusive approval. Yet, a subtle shift began to stir within me. The more they abased themselves, the more I witnessed their downfall, the more a strange hollowness began to grow. They were no longer the formidable figures of my childhood, the ones I had once strived to please. They were desperate, hollowed-out shells, willing to sacrifice anything for what they believed was rightfully theirs. But could I truly let them have it without extracting the ultimate price? Then, the final call. My lawyer's voice, this time infused with a quiet gravity. Your grandfather's will is final. Everything is officially in your hands. The property, the business, the bank accounts, everything. Everything. But then, a detail, a single clause I had never seen, stopped me cold. A condition, a very specific condition. To inherit everything, I had to make a decision within a set time frame, whether or not to share the wealth with my family. The choice was mine, but the stakes were immense. Refuse to share, and I would lose everything. Share, and I would gain far more than mere wealth. The crucial detail, the clause explicitly stated that my family had to prove their worthiness by fulfilling a series of tasks I could assign. A sudden, chilling clarity. This wasn't just about money, it was about power. How deeply could I penetrate their desperate facade? How far could I push them until they finally shattered? I held the power to make them regret every single agonizing moment they had inflicted upon me. I held the phone, the gears of my mind turning, crafting a brutal symphony of retribution. What tasks would I demand? How far could I push them before they finally broke? My father was the first on my list. I've decided to consider helping you all, I began, my voice a carefully modulated calm. But it won't be easy. There's a list of things you need to do first, and I'll be watching closely. If you fail at any of them, you'll get nothing. A strained pause. What do you want us to do? His voice was barely a whisper. I smiled, a chilling vision forming in my mind. Start with something simple. I want you to apologize to me, not just for what happened 10 years ago, but for the way you've treated me since. Make it clear that you understand exactly what you did wrong. You want an apology? You're not serious. I'm very serious, I replied, my voice a silken thread of ice. And I'm not done. You'll call Aunt Linda and Uncle Mark. They need to apologize too. They were part of this. They need to understand the consequences of their actions. Once you all do that, we'll talk about the next step. My father's long silence was a testament to the weight of my demands. Fine, he finally choked out. We'll do it. But after that, we want something in return. I couldn't help but let out a short, cold laugh. Oh, you'll get something in return, but you'll have to earn it. I hung up, savoring the moment. They had no idea the depths of the abyss I was about to drag them through. The tasks I had planned were just the beginning. They would bend to my will, step by agonizing step, until they had nothing left but the crushing realization that their power over me was irrevocably gone. Days bled into weeks. My father and the rest of them, a parade of carefully worded apologies, begging for my forgiveness. Their words, rehearsed and desperate, almost stirred a flicker of pity. Almost. But it wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed them to truly grasp the monumental scale of their underestimation. So I summoned them to a family meeting. My father, my aunt, my uncle, even my cousin, all present. Their faces a volatile mix of hope and fear, their eyes darting, trying to decipher my next move. They knew I was playing them, but the true scope of my game remained hidden. "Now that you've all apologized," I said, my voice deliberately flat, "it's time for the next step. I want you to sell everything you own. The house, the cars, the business, everything. You're going to donate the money to charity. All of it." A collective gasp. My father looked as if he might collapse. "You want us to donate everything?" His voice was a barely audible whisper. "To charity, exactly," I said, leaning back in my chair. "And if you don't, then you'll get nothing. Not a single penny from the inheritance. You'll be right back where you started." The power surged through me. A heady, intoxicating rush. Yet, as I surveyed their broken faces, an unsettling thought began to surface. Was I becoming as ruthless as they had been to me? Was this justice, or merely a descent into their own moral wasteland? I silenced the doubt. This was not the time for introspection. They had hurt me. Now it was their turn. The final days before my ultimatum's deadline were a suffocating shroud of tension. I watched, with a detached fascination, as my family crumbled under the weight of my demands. My father, a shadow of his former self, his face etched with sleepless nights, his once proud posture now a permanent slump, desperately clawed at the remnants of his life. Yet, a strange, unsettling emptiness began to bloom within me. I had craved this, to see them sweat, to wield control. But as I watched their agonizing struggle, the anticipated satisfaction eluded me. Was this truly justice? Or had I merely become another villain in a story that began with their betrayal? The final day, they stood before me, drained, defeated. My father's eyes were hollow, his suit wrinkled from days of frantic, futile effort. My aunt, Uncle Mark, my cousin, all nervous, exhausted, silent. The silence was deafening, suffocating. Finally, my father spoke, his voice thick with a crushing regret. "We've done it. We've sold everything. All the money. It's been donated just like you asked." His eyes pleaded with mine. "You've won. You got what you wanted." The pain in his eyes was undeniable. He was broken. And while I had set out to punish him and my family for what they had done to me, a strange feeling started to rise within me. Guilt, maybe. Or just an overwhelming sense of emptiness. They had lost everything. But in doing so, I felt as if I had lost a piece of myself too. "Good," I said, my voice flat, devoid of triumph. "You fulfilled your part. Now you can have what you've been asking for." They all seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. But I could see it in their faces. They weren't just relieved. They were terrified. I had pushed them to the edge, made them pay in ways they never thought they would have to. And now they were at my mercy, waiting for me to hand over what they thought was rightfully theirs. But before I could speak again, my cousin stepped forward. He had been quiet throughout most of this ordeal, keeping his head down. But now he met my gaze directly, his voice steady. "I don't think this is what Grandpa would have wanted," he said, his tone firm. "You've gotten everything. But are you really happy?" He paused, his gaze unwavering. "Because it doesn't look like it." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had been so focused on revenge, so consumed with making them pay, that I hadn't stopped to think about what I really wanted. The satisfaction I had expected from their suffering had vanished, replaced by an overwhelming emptiness. My family was broken, and I had been the one who had broken them. I looked at my cousin, the weight of his words sinking in. "What do you mean?" He shook his head. "I mean, we're all here because of one mistake, but none of this was supposed to be about money. Grandpa left us something far more valuable. His love, his wisdom, his trust. You've proven that you're capable of getting revenge. But are you capable of forgiveness?" I looked around at the rest of my family, who were all waiting for my decision, their faces, a mixture of hope and fear. For a moment I felt like I was drowning. I had been so focused on making them pay that I had forgotten why I was even doing this in the first place. Then I made my decision. I stood up slowly, my eyes scanning their faces. "I've made you all suffer, and while you deserved it, I'm not proud of what I've done. I wanted you to feel the pain I've felt, but in the end, I've only made things worse." My dad's eyes widened as he realized what I was about to say. "Wait, you're not going to take it all back, are you?" I smiled sadly, shaking my head. "No, I'm not taking it back. But I'm going to make sure we move forward from this. I won't hold this over you anymore. The inheritance is still mine, but I'm going to help you rebuild. We'll find a way to move past all of this." I could see the disbelief on their faces, mixed with a hint of relief. It wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't going to happen overnight. But I had learned that revenge didn't bring the satisfaction I had hoped for. What I really needed was closure, both for me and for them. In the weeks that followed, I worked with my family to help them rebuild what they had lost. It wasn't easy. There were a lot of difficult conversations, and we all had to face the truth about what we had done to each other. But gradually things started to change. The walls of resentment and anger came down, and for the first time in years, I felt like we were starting to heal. In the end, I didn't just inherit money or property. I inherited something more valuable. The ability to forgive, to move on, and to rebuild. And that, in the end, was worth more than any inheritance my grandfather could have left.